One
One
punch!
Punch!
Welcome everybody to Richard and Karl present Deep Space and Dragons. I'm Richard.
And I am Karl.
And amusingly, in today's episode, both of these things got exploded in one punch. We're going to be talking One Punch Man. But first, what is new in the world of Karl?
Well, I mean, it's not exactly new with me specifically, but daylight savings somewhat recently kicked in, and I thought it was so there's 3 points I want to make about this. I was reading up on it, and I would have to look it up again to see exactly how many years ago, but the European Union was thinking about ending daylight savings time permanently, or enacting daylight savings times permanently. I believe most
Both are the
countries
same solution somehow.
But anyways, the European Union they approved a bill to have it ended, but then they decided they needed to do some impact analysis studies first. Which I thought it was common knowledge that the day after daylight savings hits in is like the most dangerous day of the year.
Oh yeah,
and that the entire
the purge
summer
is safer.
The entire summer, people have increased risk of like heart disease because of the in daylight savings messes with your circadian rhythm, and it's like, geez.
Yeah, people die and there's no gain. Yeah. That is daylight savings.
And then I don't know if I think it might have been last year now. But Alberta, Canada, had a referendum along with their election, and they too were thinking about ending daylight savings
because it does nothing. It kills people.
Apparently, 51% of Albertans voted to keep daylight savings. It's a really tight margin, but like apparently,
yeah, those 51% of people have must have stock in either car insurance, Medicare. Or some other exploitive industry that's beneficial when people just die. Because as you mentioned, and I'm going to chime in here a bit, the studies have shown that daylight savings kills more people than vending machines, kills more people than sharks, kills more people than studded brass knuckles, kills more people than Axe body spray. There's lots of things people would love to ban that are less dangerous than daylight savings. We have definitely banned products, like there was a kid's toy that had uranium isotopes. That has killed way less people than daylight savings.
But so the third point to make about daylight savings...
Less people have died to uranium, Karl. Uranium has a lower kill rate than daylight savings. Think about that.
But the third point I want to make about daylight savings is that now the United States Senate has approved a bill to end daylight savings time. But... now it has to pass through the House, and I think that the president then would have to sign off on it. So it's like, I mean, Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, he's a little bit old school because he's so old.
I mean, not even a hot take. That's not even political. He literally is just like Gandalf aged.
But I'm a little bit worried that he might just like it'll get to him and then he'll just veto it because he likes daylight savings time for some old archaic reason.
Thousands of people die from it. Die yearly.
But so it's like, yeah, because Saskatchewan doesn't observe daylight savings time. I would be happy to see it abolished elsewhere, because then I wouldn't have to worry about other people's time zones changing. It would always be the same. And I really hope that it gets through in the States, because then Canada will most likely follow suit.
So here's a fun fact for you. Daylight savings kills more people a year than not just bears, not just horses, not just wasps and bees and dogs, more than animals. Full stop.
What?
Traffic accidents, heart problems, work lapses, and death. Animals, as a whole, cause less death than daylight savings.
Actually, that's why I'm confused about why the European Union needed to do impact analysis studies, because it's like it's clearly a risk to human life.
So here's some straight
and if
numbers.
Humans are dead, they're not productive.
1,610 animal-related fatalities in the U.S. in 2008 to 2015. 1,000 plus daylight savings related car accidents and deaths a year. 10 times the people died at daylight savings than all of the animals combined. Voltron has lower kill counts. Vegeta has a lower kill count.
Oh, and he kills every side villain.
Itachi Uchiha, famous for murdering his entire clan, has a lower kill count. And how long is daylight savings going? Like 100 years or some nonsense?
Well, see, I would have to look up the specifics, but I'm pretty sure the one of the significant reasons daylight savings was enacted in the first place was supposedly during World War II, because there was fuel shortages. They wanted to shift people's working hours to be more during the daytime, so they wouldn't use as much fuel at night.
Okay, daylight savings start. What?
But I mean, no one really seems to actually
July
know
1st,
why.
1908.
Oh wow, World War One, I guess.
So since
Or
we
around
invented
there.
the buzzbrighter, or colloquially known as the light bulb, daylight savings has no longer been relevant.
Yeah, pretty much.
So Saitama has killed less people than daylight savings.
Well, Saitama's kill count seems to actually be pretty low.
Well, let's see. 1,000 a year times 100 years. Daylight savings has killed, what do you know, over 100,000 people.
Okay, I mean that statistic is a little bit inflated because I'm assuming there were fewer daylight savings related car accidents back 100 years ago.
The fact that we have to adjust this number for, yet again, a thing that causes no material gain unless you're in the murder industry. Like, John Wick can't even kill that many people, and he's trying.
He is trying. He has killed a lot of people. I think his kill count is like almost 100 in the 3 movies.
And he's got nothing on a single daylight savings purge. This is ridiculous.
Daylight savings is ridiculous. Like I said, I really hope it gets passed in the United States, because then Canada will follow suit. And there's a really good chance that the European Union will get off their butts and just stop with their impact analysis and just do it when America does it.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, there's so many things that it kills more than that we banned. Like, I'm pretty sure lead pipes have killed less people. Like, I'm pretty sure asbestos has killed less people. Like,
Hey, in Saskatchewan, lead pipes are still killing people.
yeah, and so's daylight. Wait, no, it's not. They're a bigger issue for you. Touche, sir. Touche. But shall we move into the topic? Because I feel like we could do an entire episode on just hating on daylight savings and be completely justified, and a social service. Because if you get a referendum that asks, do you get rid of daylight savings, don't go, it hasn't hurt anyone. No, we have many mass murderers that wishes they had daylight savings numbers.
But yeah, let's move on into our actual topic for the day.
Jack the Ripper killed less people. Genghis Khan killed less people, I think. Sorry, let's continue on here.
One Punch Man has, I think he has a really low kill count because, well, most of his kills happen off screen, but like,
I mean,
he doesn't really fight masses very often.
But the alien dude from the first... Actually, let's start with... So, for those of you who have not watched One Punch Man, One Punch Man is one of the single best 12-episode animes I've ever seen. Ignore Season 2. It doesn't exist, you don't need that yet. However, the story of One Punch Man is this. They took the worst artist in Shonen Jump, with his mediocre weekly webcomic that was highly entertaining with peak comedy, and somehow got, like, Leonardo da Vinci to draw for it or something. Like, who is this guy they found? So they somehow took a gag series and elevated it to pure art form. So, Karl, please tell the story of One Punch Man, and to quote the titular Saitama himself, keep it down to 2 paragraphs max, please. We don't have time for your edgy backstory.
Okay. Saitama loses his job and has a midlife crisis where he decides to dedicate his entire life to being a hero for fun.
We've all
in
been
the process
there.
of being a hero for fun, he becomes the most powerful hero that the world has ever seen, but nobody recognizes him. They instead attribute all of his feats to this random guy that happened to be there every single time.
And the thing about One
And they
Punch...
create a... I'm sorry,
Go ahead. No, you got this.
And they create a Heroes Association that organizes heroes to fight monsters that seem to be appearing with greater and greater frequency. And eventually Saitama hears about this Heroes Association and decides to join so he can gain renown. While also hopefully finding tough fighters that he can beat that will be able to take more than one punch.
So to even go a little more basic. So we got Saitama the hero for fun. And his problem is, after doing 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 jumping jacks, a 10K run every day for a year, without using his AC or his heater for training, he has become the most powerful fictional character. Full stop. And he wins every fight at one punch. But the actual main character of One Punch Man for screen time is Genos, who is an amalgamation of every edgy anime trope they could find, who is demanding Saitama train him, and Saitama has no intelligence stat. When he applied for the hero exam to be a certified hero, he broke the fitness exam and every record, and failed the written test, and got a 50%. So Saitama himself has no idea how Saitama does Saitama. Oh man, do I love myself this series. At least the first 12 episodes was such a good coherent plot arc.
Well, see, so I mean, we can almost never do an episode of our podcast without at least talking about Bleach. I mean, we do have one that's about board games, and
did I not mention Bleach Risk? That's
games?
a misplay. I should have talked about Bleach Monopoly or Bleach Risk. That's on me, my bad. We need to re-record that.
Re-record, insert board game about Bleach. But on our podcast here, we like to say when a show has a bunch of side characters who do their thing and then stick around to do one-on-one duels.
Yes, Bleach Syndrome, which we don't know if they named the taupe, because I think Rurouni Kenshin did it first, but they had a smaller cast.
Right. So as a writing device, it's an excellent way to pad out your weekly series without actually having to write a lot of more content. So then you can focus on writing the content that's going to come after, 3 or 4 weeks of fighting.
Which is fantastic when they force you to work so hard it throws out your spine and shatters your wrists. Shout out to Shonen Jump's terrible working conditions. Be better.
Okay there, Falcon.
I stand by it.
So One Punch Man season 2. I haven't actually watched season 2 of the anime, but it's also like there's not really a single plot arc they can make into a season 2, so I'm not really
I think it
sure
goes to
him.
It goes to the first time he one punches Elder Centipede. They just kind of flesh out some of the Garo things. They have him go through the martial arts tournament. He gets some more screen time with King, one of my favorite friendships in anime. Because Saitama is the best at being a hero, and is kind of terrible at everything else. So the worst hero completely beats him at Street Fighter, and that becomes his fixation for a while.
Trying to beat King at video games because, the hero business just isn't fun anymore because he's the strongest character in history. But, so, I mean, I guess that section of season 2 isn't too bad. But then they start moving into, spoiler alert, they start moving into this monster association where all of the S-class heroes, or very nearly all of them, show up for their one-on-one duels with their opposing monster. Because the Monster Association has specifically lured the heroes into their base and designed monsters to perfectly counter a given hero.
Which is hilarious because...
Sorry?
To give a little tangent, just a bit more about the earlier season of One Punch Man and why this is relevant. So One Punch Man, instead of being like a serialized series at the start, was almost like a series of short vignettes. Because he can one-shot any character from anything in one hit. But the first season is largely about Genos pestering him to teach him how to be a hero, about him applying to the Hero Association. And it ends with him blowing up a meteorite and giving a speech that I don't care about what you guys think about me, because I'm in it for fun, and if you got a problem with that, go F yourself. And the Saitama mission statement of, I'm doing what I want and what I think is right, and if you got a problem with that, go F yourself, was a very compelling character. Because his conflict wasn't would he'd win the fight, but would people stop being a dick to him? Which leads to a beautiful cinematic boss battle against an alien overlord who's been told he needs to travel to Earth to fight the one person as strong as him. An animation cinematic that Dragon Ball Z wishes it could have, and has yet to top to its day, for the character to get then defeated in 2 punches, because he had armor. The armor got defeated in the first punch. To then go, oh, it turns out prophecies are bullshit. This wasn't a good match at all. What have I done with my life? Oh no. As he punched a guy so hard that it spun windmills in Holland and got slapped to the moon. He jumps a couple times and then he jumps back from the moon to punch this person through their alien spaceship. So Saitama is delightful because he's the TV show equivalent of using a rocket launcher to kill a fly. Even if you don't kill the fly, it's fascinating to watch that. And it was definitely a weird underdog story of somehow the main character was the underdog despite being the most broken sheet ever. And there's a full scene where he saves a person whose entire superpower is throwing a bike at people. And you're like, yeah, I'm here for this. I'm here for Licenseless Rider, the bike riding superhero, getting his butt kicked for Saitama to be like, you gave me a ride one time, bro. You're a real hero. So when we get to season 2, where we're doing the Show and Jump classic, have every named character fight every other character with their edgy backstories, they forgot what was good about the show, and it was having Superman with no impulse control interacting with random chumps on the street. Saitama seems to get less and less screen time as the show goes on. Like, he is truly not the main character of his own series. Which is deeply unfortunate, because he makes a delightful main character. But he also can't be, because he ends every problem in one punch. So, if you can't come up with clever problems, he will just end every episode. This current plot arc that's been going for 6 years could be ended by Saitama in 13 seconds. And the series has been actively trolling me personally. It knows me. It's after me. By almost letting Saitama end the plot arc at any time. Because the only way the season can end is the main villain getting punched by Saitama. He is the literal punchline of the joke. And they're just like brick joking this so bad. Be like, hey, have I told you a joke about the boomerang? It's going to come back around. And I'm just... Why? 8 years for a boomerang joke. Just let me have my boomerang joke. Please. Please. So this series might be driving me to madness a bit lately.
So I went on a tangent about Bleach syndrome, specifically because Bleach syndrome, like I say, is
great for selling action figures and making fighting games.
And it's mostly designed for that stopgap measure of the weekly series, where you need a break to actually figure out where you want the story to go next, or how you want things to go. And so you just fluff out your runtime with something that's cool that the fans are going to enjoy.
To directly follow up on that, so a lot of Show and Jump properties become video games, card games, board games, and what have you. I feel like a lot of these authors, because this is such a common syndrome, if you take 2 characters and have them have a fight, that gives you a moveset for a fighting game. That gives you like 30 trading cards. That gives you a bunch of plushies. So it's almost like they're instructed to like make sure to make your popular characters have some screen time, because we need to sell some merch.
Well, I mean, most of these authors probably do make more money off the merch than they do off of the actual writing.
But that little subject aside, sorry to cut you off, my friend. We were talking about Bleach syndrome and how it relates to One Punch Man's 8 years to cover the amount of time that... Oh, wow. Like, entire series has risen and fallen during this plot arc. And I read the original comic, so I already know how it ends, and it's suffering.
The biggest flaw to One Punch Man right now is that it is completely random, the release schedule. If it had actually been weekly, I feel like it maybe would have been like 2 or 3 years to get where they are now.
I'll accept that. I'll accept that estimate.
Like it's so completely random when they release it, and so the bleach syndrome stings even more. The bleach in the eyes, you just can't look away.
Flawless joke, 10 out of 10. This is why I keep you around.
So like there was one chapter ended with King showing up and his King engine revving up, which is really just his heart beating so loud that everyone can hear it, and they all get scared by his presence.
I have to give a side note. If you find your heart thumping so loud that people around you can hear it and think it's an engine, we live in a mental health positive area. Get a counselor, talk to somebody, deal with your anxiety. Anxiety causes real physical symptoms. Get medication because, oh man, does my boy King have some anxiety problems.
Well, so I mean, you're very focused on Saitama and the punchline of his boomerang joke, but I have been consistently
because I like
amused.
him the best.
I've been consistently amused by how many different ways he's played the same joke about King not being actually the weakest hero and only actually secretly taking credit for Saitama's heroic actions. And it's just like it's kind of this like funny thing where
One Punch Man is built around boomerang jokes. His problem was it ballooned its cast because the boomerang jokes are hilarious. We have Genos, the most edgelord anime character to ever edgelord. His parents were killed and his body was destroyed, and he built himself a robot cyborg to avenge his dead sister. Like he's like, take every edgy antihero of the last 30 years and combine them. It's like imagine if Tony Stark and Batman were fused together into an anime teenager. But the joke for him is he always gets wrecked. And it was funny for a while. And it still would be funny, but it hasn't happened in a while because we're not paying attention to our core cast.
But so like I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but so the one chapter ends with King showing up with heart beating, whatever. And then the next chapter was essentially a recap chapter. Like some of the panels were almost reused, like exactly, almost not quite. They obviously did draw slightly new art for the panels, and it ended with King showing up and his heart beating, and I was actually mad because I waited 3 weeks to have a chapter that ended exactly where the previous chapter had ended. 0 new content was added, like literally none.
And to follow up on that, there's a technique in fake fortune telling called dry casting. I remember reading about this technique back when Crossing Over was a show, where a character would just make up lies about your dead loved ones to scam you out of your money.
Right.
It was a big deal, that show at the time. Anyway, and the thing about a lot of One Punch Man is they like to make it look like there's some masterful, orchestrated, beautiful plot unfolding, where they'll be like, ooh, there's eldritch horrors, and where are the monsters, and the association secrets, and Genos' connection with Metal Knight, and they like plant these things so later they can have I gotcha moments. For example, in the new chapter of One Piece, which is not One Punch Man, they had an I gotcha moment where Luffy didn't eat the rubber fruit, he ate the God fruit. And then they gave a montage of moments where they've planned this reveal, like that's why his fruit was so special at the start. Here's references X, Y, and Z. And they're like 8 years later they gotcha. But a lot of series will try and have those gotcha moments, but instead of actually planning a gotcha moment 8 years in advance, because we're human beings and that's insane, they'll instead leave open-ended questions that they can put a gotcha moment into later. Like the entire ending of Naruto, where it's like, see, they were clearly twins reincarnated, and you can tell because of this. I'm like, nonsense! No. That is not what you meant when you said that in Chapter 5. You were just pretending you foreshadowed this. Bad. And I'm mildly concerned that One Punch Man, with its release schedule and as time is progressing, are planting these cool future hooks that will actually never get paid off because the heat death of the universe will happen.
Well, see, I was going to say, like, I honestly don't think, like, so I read the entire original webcomic, which goes substantially further than what's published in Shonen Jump.
Yes.
But so the martial arts tournament that happens in season 2 of the anime, that is completely new versus the source material. and there are increasingly numbers of deviations from the source material into the new manga rewrite adaptation, and then those will transfer over into the anime. And so, firstly, I don't think it's dry casting because some of the points that he's made further on in the webcomic have already been ported over into the rewrite. So some of this information that comes from future chapters is already actually rewritten to be in. So the flow of information is a little bit different. And then some of the changes that he's made to the storyline, like Garo, the hero hunter, he is turning into a monster. And in the original webcomic, he kind of just like straight up turns into a monster. And then Saitama comes around and calls him half-assed.
And then flips the room on him, which was delightful.
Well, except that Garo wasn't half-assed. He just like literally became a monster. Mm-hmm. Like I don't. So, but in the rewrite, we're finally at the moment where Saitama actually shows up. But Garo has had an encounter with his previous master and sort of broke out of his monsterization. And so now he really is actually being half-assed. He had to decide whether or not he wants to be a hero, or, well, a human, I guess, or if he wants to go full monster and be evil and whatnot. And so, like, the poignancy of the moment where Saitama calls him half-assed is going to be much, much better because the overall writing has improved.
Well, what's interesting,
substantially.
It's kind of crazy. So for myself as a writer, if I were to go back to my first novel, a pretty successful novel by most metrics, I would rewrite the entire thing because I have developed as a human being. Which is why when I published it, I'm like, and I'm done, it's finished, it is out of my hands, it belongs to the universe now. I mean, what's an interesting thing for One Punch Man is now we're taking a sole artist project, and now he's collaborating, working with editors, working with a board, working with an author, and he has the power to fix the things he didn't like, or the things that I was like, well, I did a weekly gag strip, and now I'm doing a serious series. But what's weird for me is because I have those spoilers, it's almost like I know the original, so the plot twists are less twisty, and you're right, this version of One Punch Man is objectively better, but it's coming out so slowly and so far behind, and they're revising as it goes. I just don't know if I'm going to get the payoff, and I wonder if part of that is the release schedule, and another part of that is my own foreknowledge, where if I didn't already know how this Garu thing is going to play out, I wouldn't feel so tortured with them taking 4 years to get there.
Well, okay, so then the last final thing about why I don't think he's dry casting is because the whole thing where, like, with Blast and these Eldritch Horrors, so the one villain, Homeless Emperor, in both versions, he receives his power from quote-unquote God. And in both versions, he's about to say something about his power or whatever it is. He's talking to the S-Class hero Zombie Man. And then the God character is some sort of Eldritch Horror that takes the power back and causes the Homeless Emperor to basically spontaneously combust. And that's all you get in the webcomic. But in the rewrite, Blast, who is the S-Class hero who nobody knows where he is because he's off doing his own thing, he has actually already shown up. And the Eldritch Horrors have also made an additional appearance where they try and convince Terrible Tornado to accept more power so that she can rise up and beat the monsters. And obviously it's some sort of like monkey's
Faustian
paw
bargain.
deal.
Faustian bargains.
Yeah, Faustian bargain. And she manages to reject, and then Blast actually shows up, and he's like, "Oh, good job rejecting. Also, sorry about that. I kind of messed up, but laters, guys. I'm off fighting this war with these Eldritch beings." And so that content is not mirrored in the webcomic at all. And so it's like I think he genuinely wants to progress the story in that direction because he's already dropped more hints in the rewrite than he dropped in the entire webcomic.
True, and this is going to be a controversial statement. You can do all the planning you want, but if One Piece is going to finish before you, it doesn't matter. And at this rate, One Piece is going to finish before One Punch Man. Because the webcomic's far enough ahead, and at the rate they're coming out, we're going to have Luffy find the One Piece, because it's been going along, chugging along for 15 or so years of One Piece, and he has like 12 out of the 16 rocks that lead to One Piece, and he's found 2 of the 4 X's that lead to One Piece. One Piece is going to end before One Punch Man, and that is deeply tragic. If you get lapped by One Piece, readjust your life. The entire Lord of the Rings took less time than One Piece. All 7 Harry Potters concluded before One Piece. The MCU will probably finish before One Piece. I don't think One Punch Man's going to finish before One Piece.
I definitely see your complaint, and that is the single biggest problem with One Punch Man is that for whatever reason, the rewrite has an incredibly inconsistent release schedule, and that makes the Bleach syndrome even worse. And then also, like, it's taking a really, really long time to tell this story that is already mostly told.
But to follow
from that perspective, I definitely understand how you feel like there might not actually be a payoff, because at this rate, the author might die before he actually finishes the story, and then that'll be that. Like,
yeah, and the thing about One Punch Man is the first 12 episodes encapsulated such a solid beginning, middle, end of the Saitama struggle. It was like a good snapshot of the setting and the point and the theme of there's no point to being a hero if you're not having fun with it. With some really interesting hits. They hit on some very key notes about the themes and morals of the show so early on. And now it's trying to be a Shonen Jump manga when if they just kept the smaller, self-contained arcs of Saitama wanders into your life, changes it, and then he wanders on. If it almost had a more Doctor Who Villain of the Week structure, I think it'd be better, because he's trying to be epic. And sometimes you can over-epic. My favorite example is people preferred Part 1 of Naruto more than Part 2. And when they scoped it to the International Ninja War, secret villains, tail beasts, moon rabbit goddesses, people actually liked it better when it was a shorter, small-scale story. Because sometimes you can tell a much more powerful story with a much more potent motives, characters, and dialogue than when you try and sculpt out a massive multiverse. And that's where One Punch Man is at. As it stands, I highly recommend people read it. I highly recommend they watch the first season on Netflix, because it is fantastic, full of comedy. I laugh. Ignore the blatantly homophobic character. That is a product of its time, and that is not okay, and I do not condone Peri Peri Prisoner and how they handled that whole thing. Just straight up. But it is a gag series that does try and poke fun at most stereotypes. So go into that with a grain of salt that there may be some inappropriate stereotypes in the first or the entire show as a whole, but they're trying to do it in good fun, maybe. But I really enjoyed a lot of One Punch Man. It has fantastic artwork. I've been reading the manga. I'm going to continue to read it. But not everything needs to be a space opera.
Yeah, and I mean, so One Piece, for as long as it's been going, they set out the pieces of the board, I mean, relatively early on, and they haven't really added anything new in a long time, where the next arc of One Punch Man is basically flipping the table and just adding a whole bunch of new stuff. And some of it has already been shifted into the rewrite. The martial arts tournament introduced this other martial arts character who becomes key in the next plot arc, where he was just randomly introduced in the next plot arc. And I think the rewrite is a substantial improvement, both artistically and from the writing perspective. But it is a little bit frustrating having read ahead, knowing what's going to come next and how many more pieces are going to be added to the board.
Absolutely, and the thing is, the hardest thing for any writer to do is stick the landing. The number of series I've watched the ending and I'm like, that was good, is like I can count with one hand. Almost nothing actually sticks the landing. And I really hope One Punch Man can pull through and stick the landing. But we're...
Oh, Kato, the right answer.
That one was... Oh, man. Our awesome series about negotiating with aliens and battle of wits and progress versus greed. Oh, no guns, no fighting, all strategy. And it ended with the time travel nonsense that conveniently MacGuffined away everything it worked for. And this is the one time I want to just watch the villain win. Like, just straight up, like, had the villain, like, yeah, and you guys, piece by piece, fell for my trap, and the protagonist kept telling you were falling for my trap, and then you fell for it, and now I win. That would have been amazing. It's like, turns out if you offer the world free energy, you've tricked them pretty good.
But I mean, that's like one of the most egregious examples of an author who had a really, really incredibly solid premise
and no idea how to end
the
it.
Landing.
Yeah, like it's pretty much Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood stuck the landing. That's about it.
And Steins Gate had a really good ending too.
Yeah, I mean they made a sequel, which was just a mistake.
Okay. Well, yeah. If they made a sequel, then they definitely are trying to not stick the landing now.
Because it's like the original was great, but then they did like the Steins Gate Zero, which was just terrible. Which was both a sequel and a prequel, and did not need to exist because they already stuck the landing. Dragon Ball stuck the landing on 3 separate occasions. Because it stuck the ending when he fights King Piccolo, defeats him, marries Chi-Chi, and retires. It stuck the landing when Gohan blew up Cell and Goku decided to stay dead and entrust the future to his son. And it stuck the landing when Hercule saved the world because he's the best character in that series. So it stuck the landing each time, but then just got back up for some reason.
I mean, money.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. So it is possible for a series to stick the landing and then continue, but to stick the landing, you have to like stop and be like, okay, this was a landing, and actually stick the landing. You know what's not going to... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's part of the reason that, like, when you say people like Naruto season, the first part of Naruto, I think that's part of the reason that people liked it so much was because it left it open-ended.
But it stuck
because
the
they
landing.
obviously had more story to tell. But they stuck that landing. Like, it was a beautiful, full, complete character arc, and then the characters went off their separate ways, and then they started a new story.
And with that, let us move into the random question of the day and wrap things up. Actually, here's my final thoughts on One Punch Man, and you can give your final thoughts. My final thoughts are, it was an amazing combination of comedy and action where they're like, let's take a gag series and put all of our effort we can to make it the best we can be. And that love showed. It stuck the landing at episode 12, and then instead of doing smaller arcs, decided to try and be more than it could chew off with the production rates it was willing to give out. Those are my final thoughts.
Well, I mean, my final thoughts are pretty similar. Like that, the release schedule is the weakest thing about One Punch Man, and I understand how difficult it can be to consistently create weekly content because like it's hard to be original when you've already made 10,000 videos or whatever it is that you might be doing. But at the same time, if you're not consistently releasing your content, it doesn't really matter how good it is if it doesn't go anywhere.
All right, and with that, let us pivot into the random question of the day. This one comes in. Here we go. Do you have a secret hunch about how you will die? Damn, someone be savage.
A secret hunch about how I will die?
Right?
Well, I
have a secret hunch about how I think you will die, but answer first.
Well, so I think that it's entirely possible I could accidentally kill someone and get a taste for blood and then just go off the deep end and being killed in a police shootout.
Not what I was expecting you to say. Get a taste for blood. I'm like, so remember earlier I mentioned there's therapy if you need it if you're going through a rough time? I can hook you up with someone. I know some good helplines. I have a full document here about mental health lines I can send to you.
Well, yeah, you might be the one who saves me from dying in a police shootout, but that's just if I had a hunch about how I might die, I
go off the deep end and be
hope that
Breaking Bad. You're gonna go full Breaking Bad death. Got it.
Yeah. Well, do you have a secret hunch about how you're gonna die?
Oh, it's not a secret hunch. I know exactly how I'm going to die. I'm going to be about like 112, like comically old. I'm going to be sitting in bed, petting a cat, sipping my coffee, and the cat's going to have enough of my shit and slit my throat.
And
everyone will think it's natural causes until they see the cat scratch. And always low-key wonder, did I die from the cat killing me? Or did I die of natural causes? Because maybe the cat just scratched me earlier. No one knows. 100% how I die is it looks like old age, but everyone's not quite sure if it was the cat. So here's my hunch how I think you're going to die. Dust explosion.
Okay. Dust explosion.
Dust explosion. That is what my current wager is on. I owe Jeremy $20 if you die to drowning, and he gives me $20 if you die in a dust explosion.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was taking up swimming for a while. The COVID restrictions kind of
we do pay attention to you when we're wagering on your life.
But it is interesting. Like he was betting on drowning, so it's like, well, actually,
it's a pretty good choice, right?
Surprisingly plausible.
Yeah. My money's on dust explosion. You walk around fire and flour all day in a high-speed environment.
I was going to say, I've abandoned the idea of trying to make a dust explosion bomb, so you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, but also, like, here's how the dust explosion happens. It's not a graceful one. So what happens is you've had a long day, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to check my phone. You pull your cracked phone out of your pocket that got damaged in a side project, right? You go to send a text, it sparks. Right when it sparks, your boss sneezes and drops a 10-peg bag of flour, and it hits the sides of the mixer. The mixer whips up the flour into the air as you push send, and the entire restaurant blows up.
See, it's hard to actually get the right ratio. I
believe in your ability to explode.
So, like, I hypothetically speaking, if I were to have suspended a bag of flour in a box over top of a Roman candle that was lit, and then the Roman candle shoots a firework and bursts the bag.
I love the hypothetically here because you're really helping my bet odds. But continue.
That does not give you the right ratio of dust to air / compressible and tight enough space for a dust explosion to happen. Hypothetically speaking, I would have no idea. I've never tested this.
Yeah, you're gonna die in a dust explosion. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna be up $20. How do you think I'm gonna die?
They're both pretty interesting options. How do I think you're gonna die? Oh. I had never really thought about it.
Well, it's good to know you've never thought about how I'm going to die. That definitely makes me look like the hero in our story, but please continue.
Well, so, I mean, like you, I just kind of imagine you dying in some sort of like really like mundane way, like you have an ulcer pain while you're walking one day, and then you keel over in pain and fall into the street and get run over.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's rough. Like, out of the two of us, I'm far more likely to live to old age than die of a mundane medical problem.
You think so?
Probably. I haven't left the house in like a month. So I'm far more likely to die of a heart attack, and I'm more likely to not die in a dust explosion.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're living that sedentary lifestyle, which, somewhat related to daylight savings, is actually one of the most dangerous professions. Like, there are more office workers who die per year from work-related causes than police officers.
Yeah, that's why I've started making sure to go for my daily walks again to try and build back up any semblance of good shape. They opened like a beautiful new gym next to my campus, like attached to it. This new C-Wing has like an elevated indoor running track and things. And I'm like, ooh, free gym membership. Hell yeah.
So, I mean, on the topic of mental health, to anyone listening, it's exercise is an important part of your mental health too, because
absolutely,
your physical health and mental health are intrinsically linked. So making sure that you're going out and getting exercise will make you feel better in more ways than one.
And to follow up on that, I'm not even going to shug a promo or a promotion. No, we're going to end on treat yourself to a walk, pay attention to your physical and mental health, and practice self-care. That is what we're ending the night's episode on, is don't be like me or Carl. Do not die to easily preventable death because you didn't get help when you need it, and go for a walk a couple times a day.
Hey, hypothetically speaking, I was at least 20 feet away from the box of suspended flour.
You almost died, and I was almost up $20. It's amazing, because I didn't know you did this. This is just a great circumstance. Everyone take care, and have a smiley day.
Yeah, have a great week. Bye.
Bye.